In Argentina, presidential candidate Sergio Massa heads the elections and will compete in a second round against Javier Milei. More than 35,000 Palestinian refugees are moved to a tent shelter in the city of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. And the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced that he will visit China next November. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Argentina, presidential candidate Sergio Massa heads the elections and will compete in a second round against Javier Milei. In his last report, the electoral chamber revealed that the candidate for Union for the Homeland, Sergio Massa, obtained 36.15% of the votes. In second place is the far-right Javier Milei of Freedom Advances, who would have reaped 30.31% of the votes and won the arm wrestling against Patricia Bullrich, Together for Change, which reached 23.74%. In this way, the partial results show that there will be a ballotage next November 19 between Massa and Milei. On the other hand, the governing body reported that the participation reached 77.67% of the electoral roll. During these general elections, 130 seats in the Chamber of Deputies and 24 in the Senate were also renewed. Also elected were the 43 members of the TeleSUR and governors of the provinces of Buenos Aires, Entre Rios, Catamarca, and Santa Cruz, as well as provincial legislatures and municipal authorities. In the province of Buenos Aires, the largest electoral district in the country, Governor Axel Kicillof was re-elected after winning 44.92% of the votes. Presidential candidate Sergio Massa thanks the Argentinian people who went to the polls.
I want to thank the more than 25 million Argentines who went to vote. Vote for who will vote, because 40 years after the birth of our new democratic era, somehow Argentines manifest embrace this system as a system to elect those who govern.
In Argentina, presidential candidate Javier Milei said to the Argentines that this is the most important election that they are facing, and he will embrace again the ideas of freedom that made Argentina great in the 19th century.
But above all, I want you to realize that today we are facing the most important election of the last 100 years. A choice that will pass us if we want to continue with this model that Kirchnerism defends, or if we want to embrace again the ideas of freedom that are what made Argentina great in the 19th century, and that all countries that embrace the ideas of freedom progress.
In Argentina, the presidential candidate for Change, Patricia Bullrich, recognized her electoral defeat after the announcement of the second round for next November 19.
On this night, where we have not achieved the objectives we wanted for our Argentina, for the Argentines, we came to ratify with all force the values of our cause. Our cause goes beyond an electoral moment and goes beyond a moment of defeat as we accepted today.
In Mexico, the Summit Conference on Migration ended with a joint declaration condemning unilateral coercive measures. The summit was held in Palenque, Chiapas, and addressed issues such as the causes of human mobility, poverty, inequality, and lack of jobs in countries with high rates of migration. The heads of states of Colombia, Cuba, Venezuela, and Honduras participated in the meeting, as well as diplomatic representatives of Belize, Costa Rica, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, and Panama. For her part, the Foreign Minister of Mexico, Alicia Bárcena, announced the agreement established by the leaders during the meeting, where they consider sanctions as one of the causes that promote forced migration.
First, we have agreed to draw an action plan to foster development, considering the priorities and the reality of each country, in order to understand the structural causes of irregular migration in the region. In this regard, we have agreed on the following priorities: food security, self-sufficiency by recovering the agricultural sector, protecting and restoring the environment, providing decent employment, providing technical education to boost technology technological capabilities, to strive for energy security, including renewable energies, to stop the use of fossil fuels, to be self-sufficient in public health issues, to boost inter-regional trade and investment for socio-economic development, and to combat transnational organized crime, human trafficking, corruption, to foster security cooperation.
Mexican Foreign Minister Alicia Bárcena also urged for the lifting of unilateral aggressive sanctions against countries in the region.
Mexico will immediately make available to the countries gathered here an offer for cooperation and technical assistance through the following programs: Sowing Life, Youth Building the Future, Cooperation in Oil, Gas, Electricity and Renewable Energies, and a regulatory harmonization platform to create a medicines regulating agency for Latin America and the Caribbean. And we also commit to fostering inter-regional trade of basic subsistence goods and services, promoting tariff preferences, establishing quotas and eliminating non-tariff barriers, and urging for the lifting of unilateral coercive measures imposed on countries in the region, for they are at odds with international law and have serious repercussions beyond target countries.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Israeli warplanes continue their indiscriminate shelling of the Gaza Strip, targeting civilian homes and nearby hospitals, killing innocent women and children. From Gaza, our correspondent Noor Harasin has more.
It became like a daily scenario here in the Gaza Strip. That's it. Everyone become so used to it, to every morning come to the hospital and see hundreds of Palestinians who came to say the last goodbye for their loved ones, with hundreds of bodies on the floor because the hospital have no enough areas. Over the night, Israel strike tens of Palestinian home families while the families were inside their homes. No warning, nothing. That's what caused big number of people killed and injured. At the same time, tonight, Israeli warplanes targeted several hospitals, basically the areas around the hospitals, in a way to threat these hospitals. One of the hospitals is the Ashifa Hospital, when the Israeli warplanes targeted a building just behind the hospital. Al-Nasser Hospital, which is located also in Khan Yunis, which is in southern Gaza, was also a nearby land was attacked. Al-Quds Hospital, which belongs to the Red Crescent, was also targeted. The homes and the streets around it was targeted. The Al-Aqsa Hospital here, where I am located also, during the night we have been hearing heavy shelling and also several strikes. This is the situation from my side here in the Gaza Strip this morning, like all the other mornings. Noor Harazin, TeleSUR, Gaza.
At least 80 people were killed on Saturday after a new attack by Israeli forces on Al-Aqsa Hospital Square in the city of Deir al-Bala in central Gaza. The authorities of the Martyrs of Al-Aqsa Hospital confirmed the reception of 80 bodies and affirmed that in the last 24 hours they received at least 143 lifeless bodies and more than 260 wounded coming from the southern Gaza. On the other hand, the Gaza government press office reported that Israel caused the death of at least 266 people in the last hours, including 117 children only in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. The Gaza Health Ministry alerted on the risky situation of more than 100 newborns in the Gaza Strip. In a recent report, the health agency warned about the serious health situation in the Gaza Strip as a result of the constant bombardment perpetrated by the Israeli occupation forces. The report detailed that due to the impediments by Tel Aviv to allow access of humanitarian aid and fuel to the Gaza Strip, about 130 newborns in regional hospitals are at risk of death. In view of the situation, the Ministry of Health warned about the urgency of securing power, drinking water and food to care for them, otherwise they will die. In this regard, they call on the international community to intervene to stop the Israeli attacks. More than 35,000 Palestinian refugees are being moved to a tent shelter in the city of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. The move came after the Israeli army ordered civilians in the northern half of the besieged Gaza Strip to move south last week. Since then, thousands of families, mostly evacuated from refugee camps in Jabalia and Beit Lahia in northern Gaza, have no access to fuel, electricity or internet, while canned food parcels are delivered every few days. According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, more than 1.5 million people have been displaced as a result of continued Israeli attacks on residential areas.
I am from the north of Gaza, from Beit Lahia. We fled from the continuous Israeli air raids in our neighborhood. We fled from the gas and the phosphorus. We had to evacuate all the way here in Khan Yunis to protect our children and ourselves from the shelling.
Iran's foreign minister warns Israel and its ally, the United States, that the Middle East risks spiraling out of control as a result of Israel's aggressions against the Palestinian people.
Today, the region is like a flashpoint. Any miscalculation in the pursuit of this warmongering genocide massacre and forced displacement of the residents of Gaza and the West Bank could lead to heavy, bitter, and far-reaching consequences in the region, which could also work against the interests of the warmongers. I would like to warn the United States and the Israeli regime that if they do not immediately stop the crime against humanity and genocide in Gaza, anything is possible at any moment, and the region will go out of control. The consequences will fall on the perpetrators and those responsible for this war.
A second convoy of humanitarian aid arrived in Gaza. The Rafah border crossing, which connects Egypt to the Gaza Strip, opened on Sunday to allow the entry of 17 trucks of humanitarian aid. Egyptian television Al Qahira News broadcast live the entry of these vehicles through Rafah into Gaza, which claimed that there are 3 trucks from the Egyptian Red Crescent, which is leading this aid delivery alongside its Palestinian counterpart inside the convoy. Several of the volunteers gather around the gate to cheer the drivers as they raise the Egyptian flag, according to network images, which showed that the trucks still continue to enter the convoy. We have come to a second short break. But before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced that he will visit China next November. The Prime Minister said China agreed on Saturday to review the import taxes on Australian wine. He also said that although his attention is currently focused on the U.S. visit, Australia is interested in good relations with China. During the visit, the official is expected to meet in Beijing with his Chinese counterpart Li Qiang and President Xi Jinping.
It is important that we stabilise our relationship with China. That is in the interests of Australia and China, and it is indeed in the interests of the world that we have stable relations, and that is what this visit will represent. A win-win. Australia gets to export our wine. Importantly, China gets to receive this amazing product. It's in Australia's interest to have good relations with China, and certainly though my focus the coming days will be very much on the visit to the United States with Australia's closest partner, talking about the future of our alliance, a future which has been upgraded by the AUKUS arrangements, a future based upon our common values, our commitment to democracy, and our commitment to the international rule of law and stable order throughout the globe. That is what we want to see. Thank you very much. Thank you.
In Switzerland, vote counting was underway in Sunday's parliamentary elections, with polls pointing to a rebound for right-wing populist and socialist parties, while Greens are expected to lose ground compared to the last such election 4 years ago. The election of the 200-seat lower house, known as the National Council, and the 46-seat Council of States, the upper house, will set the tone for Swiss policy as the Alpine country adapts its self-image as a neutral country outside the European Union and grapples with issues like climate change, rising cost of healthcare costs, and migration. The parliamentary vote is one of the two main ways that Switzerland's 8.5 million people guide their country, another is through regular referendum, which set guideposts that Parliament must follow as it drafts and passes legislation.
Effectively, there is the rise of the cost of life, and as a retreat is not easy, so I count on everyone who is on my list. I think this is decisive and concerning because there is really an emergency. We know this since so many years now. Thus, I can understand that when there are other problems, people say to themselves that the planets come second. But in fact, I don't believe it. I believe if there is no planet, ultimately, those issues come seconds. So, for me, that's the priority for these elections.
On Sunday, a China Coast Guard spokesman said China's maneuvers on the Philippine vessel's intrusion into the adjacent waters of the Renhai Reef in China's Nansha Islands are reasonable, lawful, and professional. The spokesman added that the Philippines insisted on sending 2 transport ships and 2 Coast Guard vessels into the disputed waters without permission, in disregard of China's repeated dissuasion and warnings in an attempt to illegally deliver construction materials to the Philippine Navy warship that had been illegally grounded at the Renai Reef. According to the spokesman, the Philippine vessels approached the CCG vessels in an unsafe manner in disregard of the stern warnings of the Chinese side and caused a slight collision. We have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.